Have you ever wondered if you're truly living out the mission God placed on your life? Do you sometimes feel uncertain about whether your steps align with His divine plan? If you've ever questioned your purpose, take heart. You're not alone. God created each of us with a heavenly mission, a calling that's uniquely ours. But understanding and living that mission can feel like a daunting task, especially when life's distractions, doubts, and challenges cloud our path. Here's the good news. God doesn't leave us to figure it out on our own. There are signs, clear markers, that show us when we're walking in alignment with His will. Today, we're going to explore the 9 signs that reveal you're living your heavenly mission. By the end of this, you'll feel empowered to discern your path and confidently pursue the calling God has placed on your life. Every believer has a heavenly mission. It's not just for pastors, missionaries, or ministry leaders. It's for every single one of us. Your mission might involve your family, your workplace, your church, or your community. Wherever God has placed you, He has a plan to use your life for His glory. But how can you know if you're living your mission? How can you discern if your steps align with God's will? The Bible provides us with clear principles and signs that reveal whether we're walking in our purpose. Let's uncover these signs together and explore how they manifest in our daily lives. One of the first signs that you're living your heavenly mission is a deep sense of purpose. When you're aligned with God's calling, you wake up each day knowing that your life has meaning. Even on difficult days, there's an underlying assurance that what you're doing matters. Think about Paul. After his dramatic encounter with Jesus on the road to Damascus, his life took on a singular focus: spreading the gospel. Despite shipwrecks, imprisonment, and persecution, Paul never wavered because he knew his mission. When you're living your heavenly mission, there's a clarity that comes from knowing you're part of something bigger than yourself. Spend time in prayer, asking God to reveal His purpose for your life. Look for ways to serve others and make an impact in the areas where God has placed you. Another clear sign that you're living your mission is that you face opposition. Walking in God's will often stirs up resistance because the enemy doesn't want you to fulfill your purpose. But here's the key. When you're truly aligned with God's calling, you persevere through the challenges. Nehemiah experienced this when he set out to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. He faced ridicule, threats, and sabotage, but he stayed focused on his mission, knowing that God was with him. If you're facing difficulties, don't be discouraged. Opposition is often a sign that you're on the right track. Pray for strength and courage when challenges arise. Remember that God equips you to overcome every obstacle in His name. When you're living your heavenly mission, your God-given gifts and talents naturally come into play. God equips each of us uniquely, and He calls us to use those gifts for His glory. Consider Esther. She was placed in a royal position for such a time as this, to save her people. Her courage, wisdom, and influence were exactly what was needed to fulfill her mission. When your gifts align with your work, it's a strong indication that you're walking in God's plan. Identify your gifts and ask God how He wants you to use them. Seek opportunities to serve in ways that align with your strengths. One of the most beautiful signs that you're living your heavenly mission is the impact you have on others. When you're aligned with God's purpose, your life becomes a source of encouragement, inspiration, and transformation for those around you. Think about Jesus. Everywhere He went, He impacted lives, healing the sick, feeding the hungry, and teaching with authority. His mission was rooted in serving others, and He calls us to do the same. If people are being drawn closer to God because of your actions, it's a strong indication that you're living your mission. Look for ways to serve and uplift others. Be intentional about sharing God's love and truth in your interactions. Joy is another key sign of living your heavenly mission. This doesn't mean life will always be easy or problem-free, but there's a deep, abiding joy that comes from knowing you're walking in God's will. David expressed this joy in the Psalms, writing, "In your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore." When you're living your mission, there's a sense of fulfillment that can't be found anywhere else. Focus on the blessings and opportunities God has placed in your life. Practice gratitude and celebrate the ways He is using you. Living your heavenly mission often requires sacrifice. Whether it's your time, resources, or comfort, you're willing to lay things down because you know the mission is worth it. Jesus is the ultimate example of this. He willingly sacrificed everything for the sake of His mission to redeem humanity. When we are aligned with our calling, we find the strength to make sacrifices, knowing that they're part of something greater. Ask God to help you prioritize His mission over your own comfort. Trust that He will provide everything you need as you step out in faith. When you're living your heavenly mission, you experience God's guidance in your daily decisions. You may not always know the full picture, but you sense His hand directing your steps. Proverbs reminds us, "In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." This doesn't mean you won't encounter uncertainty, but when you're living your mission, you trust God to guide you through every twist and turn. Moses is an example of this. When he led the Israelites out of Egypt, he didn't know how they would cross the Red Sea or find provision in the wilderness, but he trusted God to lead the way. Pray for wisdom and discernment in your decisions. Be sensitive to the Holy Spirit's prompting and trust that God is leading you, even when the path isn't clear. Living your heavenly mission often involves a process of growth and refinement. God uses challenges, trials, and even setbacks to shape you into the person He's called you to be. Think about Joseph. Before he could step into his mission of saving a nation, he went through years of betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment. These experiences weren't wasted. They were part of God's refining process to prepare Joseph for his calling. If you're experiencing spiritual growth, even through difficult times, it's a sign that you're aligned with God's mission for your life. Embrace the process of refinement. Trust that God is using every situation to strengthen your faith and character. When you're living your heavenly mission, you witness God's provision in your life. This doesn't mean you'll never face challenges, but you'll see how God meets your needs, opens doors, and provides exactly what you need at just the right time. Elijah experienced this when God sent ravens to feed him during a drought. The provision wasn't extravagant, but it was exactly what he needed to sustain him for the mission ahead. When you're living in alignment with God's will, His provision becomes evident in both big and small ways. Practice gratitude for God's provision. Trust that He will continue to supply all your needs as you follow His calling. How to step into your heavenly mission. Now that we've explored the signs of living your heavenly mission, let's talk about how to step into it if you feel unsure. Here are practical steps to help you align your life with God's plan. Seek God in prayer. Ask God to reveal His purpose for your life. Spend time in His presence, listening for His voice and seeking His guidance. Study His Word. The Bible is full of wisdom and direction for understanding your mission. Look for scriptures that speak to your calling and meditate on them. Trust His timing. God's mission for your life unfolds in His perfect timing. Be patient and trust that He is working behind the scenes, even when things feel unclear. Take small steps of obedience. You don't have to have everything figured out to start living your mission. Begin with small steps of obedience and trust that God will guide you as you go. Surround yourself with believers. Community is essential for living your mission. Surround yourself with people who will encourage, support, and pray for you. Living your heavenly mission isn't about perfection. It's about surrender, faith, and alignment with God's will. The 9 signs we've explored today are not just markers of a life on mission. They're invitations to deepen your relationship with God and step boldly into His plan for your life. If you see these signs in your life, celebrate them as evidence that God is at work in and through you. If you're still seeking clarity, take heart. God is faithful, and He will reveal your mission as you seek Him. Remember, your mission is unique. It's designed by God specifically for you, and no one else can fulfill it. So step into it with confidence, knowing that He who called you is faithful to complete the good work He began in you. You are chosen, equipped, and loved. And with God by your side, there is no limit to what He can accomplish through your life.